So what I want to show you how to do is how to add new body groups to your models. And I just downloaded this hair model that I'm going to add to mine. And I already have it downloaded and extracted right here. So when you're in Blender, import your model that you want to add the body group to, as added our Chloe model from the other tutorial, and then we'll import our new hair model. And I'll just scale it up. When it's about roughly a good size, you can delete this root ground bone if it has one. And then we'll grab the bones for the hair and the mesh and drag it and try and find a good size. Can be a little bit bigger. Helps if you set the origin to the center of the mass. And I'm just going to call that good for now for the sake of the tutorial. What you can do is you can click the mesh, and if there's any parts that overlap or that go into her face, like her hair right here for example, you could select them and just move them out of the way. You might have to do some minor editing to get these to look proper, but I'm just going to leave it for the sake of the tutorial. And since this came from XNALR, you'll need to rename the materials. So the name of the material it uses is hair_D. So I'm just going to copy it and rename it to that. And when you do that, you'd want to get rid of where it says .png. This is really the VMT file it's going to be looking for. But since this Chloe model already has hair_D, I'm going to rename this new hair. So it will look for that VMT. So once it's to the correct size, what you'll need to do is take these bones from this hair and add it to this skeleton. And what I like to do is I like to hit select your mesh for your hair, hit Alt-P, and clear it, the parent, and keep the transformation, and do the same with the body. And then you can go in, you can grab it. Let's see what this moves. So her main hair bone is this head and neck. It's titled Head and Neck Upper. The one on our, if I can get to it, the one on our body is just titled Head. So what you can do is select your skeleton, go into edit mode, and rename this main head bone just to head. That way, all this is now weighted to the head when you join the skeletons. And because we already have a bone named head, we don't need this one, but it's already weighted to that bone. So we can just delete it. And what we're going to do is grab the bones from the original mesh. Might have to hide these. It's easier. Hit H. Going to grab these, hold Shift, right click to select them both, and hit Control J to join them together. And all bones will need a parent, so you don't have bones floating around. So make sure that ponytail bone is parented to the head. That way, when the head moves, the bones for the ponytail also move. So if you go into pose mode, we'll notice that none of this is connected. And that's perfectly normal. Go into, actually just right click the mesh, then shift and right click onto the bones, and hit Control P, and set the parent to the armature with empty groups. And do the same thing for the mesh. And if it has this, we can just delete it, and then just add a new one. Hit the mesh, right click to the skeleton, or new skeleton with the new bones, Control P, and set to the armature with empty groups. And it should now, oops, maybe not. It should be set. Let's see. So our hair, this chunk didn't get renamed for some reason. It's probably still named. Oh no, it's renamed. But there's another one in here for some reason. Oh, it was an uppercase. Makes all the difference. So I'm just going to delete that one, and then make that one an uppercase. Okay, now everything's parented. Make sure you're naming that the right name. Upper and lowercase does matter, and it does make a difference. So now we need to export it, but we need to make sure that we're not above the bone limit. Remember, it's 128 for Gmod. And since we're under that, we don't have to remove any or do anything unnecessary. So we can just go into object mode. And I'm going to rename this, since I already have one. I'll just rename it Chloe Reference New Hair. And then I'll name her hair just New Hair. So we have it rigged. It fits on her decently. The materials are renamed. So all we have to do now is just export it. So hit the mesh. I still like to hit Control A and apply the location, rotation, and scale before I export it. And I'm just going to throw it on my desktop for right now. And I'll do the same for her reference. one other thing you have to do is if you are adding bones, like how we just did, you will have to also make sure that your physics model has those same bones. So we're just going to make a new armature with our original physics that we had, and it'll fit exactly the same. We didn't change anything about how she looks. So I'll just select the mesh of the physics, hit Alt-P to clear the parent, and we can delete the skeleton from the physics. And just drag it back over. And just like how we parented it before, select the physics mesh, hold Shift, right click, and hit Control-P to parent it with empty groups. And I'm hitting empty groups because it's already weighted to this skeleton. And we should check it real quick to make sure it's weighted properly, and it is. So I'll rename this to physics new hair. And export those two. So here are our 3 files that we exported: physics, her reference, and her new hairstyle. And I'm just going to take the QC file and show you how to add the body groups to it. And because I already have a Chloe model and this is just for the sake of a tutorial, I'll just rename this Chloe New Hair. And her reference, or her facial flexes should still work, since we didn't actually edit her reference mesh, we just edited her skeleton, or her bones, her armature. So these should still work. I'm just going to get rid of all of her original body groups and just add the one that we had. So if you're adding one, under this model line, after it closes, actually, you can start a body group line. And I'm just going to name it hair, and it should say studio, and then in quotations the name of the hair file. And I think I just named it new hair. And if you want to have a space that has a blank option, all that'll do is you'll be able to toggle this on and off. And if you were adding different hairstyles, like if you had, if you wanted to make like 2 or 3 different hair pieces and be able to switch through them, you would do something like this. You might not even have the blank, or else she would just be bald. But for the sake of tutorial, I'm just going to leave it on to show you that it can toggle on and off. And that's really just how you add them. If you want to add jigglebones to her hair so that her ponytail moves and jiggles, then you can do that too. I'm just going to skip that because I did it once before. And I'll save this and compile it. oops, I tried to compile it and I forgot to add her flexes to the desktop. Let me find it real quick. Here it is. So these are her flexes, her facial flexes, and now we can open up Crowbar and just drag the QC file on top of it to compile. Couldn't load physics 2. Oh, that's right, we renamed physics file as well, so we'll need to go down there and rename that to physics. New hair is what I named it. You won't need to redo your joint constraints if you already made them once. Actually, while it's compiling, I could add jigglebones to her hair real quick. Let's see. So this is just a really simple jigglebone code, a really basic one. And right here you just put the name of whichever hair bone you want to jiggle. So it starts with ponytail space A. We won't make that one jiggle. We'll start with ponytail B, and that goes all the way down to ponytail H. So ponytail B. And I like to start these off the very low stiffness, and the higher you make that, the more it will jiggle. And I just like to copy and paste them and then just add the next letter so it's quick. And I'll just go up in these kind of increments. Go up to 100, and you can change the damping. That's basically how quick it'll snap back. Oops, it should be E, then F, and I'll make it 125, and I won't go more than 150, I guess. F, G, H. And we'll just click Save, and we compile it real quick. You can see it marked them as jigglebones. once it's done, click View Model in Model Viewer to take a look at it. We can see that it now has hair. It can jiggle and flow. We want to make sure your physics model lines up, and it does. If it doesn't, it usually means that if it doesn't line up, it usually means that the physics model doesn't match the reference model, and by that I mean like the bones themselves don't line up. So if you used the reference file and added hair onto it and extra bones, how we did, but then just used a physics model without those bones, it might mess up. Just make sure you're using the exact same skeleton for both of these. And we should be able to see how she would look without the hair, and that's going to be an option in Gary's mod. We'll be able to toggle her hair on and off. So, to close that, go to the model file, and I'll add it to my Gary's mod folder. Yeah, that's where I put it. And it should work now, but the last thing we have to do is go to that file that we downloaded, the hair, and we need to make these a VTF file types. And the way I do it is I just open it up inside paint.net really quick. And I'll just save it as, I don't change the name, I just set it to VTF. And I'll throw it on the desktop. And if it has these checkers, this transparency, the alpha, whatever you want to call it, do compressed texture with alpha. And hit OK. You need to do the same for the bump map as well. So when it's done, you will need to make a VMT file and add these to your materials folder, which I believe is this one here. Yeah. And I think she already has, yeah, she already has a file named hair_D, which I already knew that in advance. So I'm just going to make it new hair. And what we can actually do is just make a copy of her hair and rename it. We'll rename it whatever we named it in Blender. Yeah, I just named it new hair. So make sure you go into it and set the path to those. It says new hair _D. So that's what we're naming it. And the map is new hair _N. So we'll do that. And we'll just save this and see how it looks inside Gary's mod. Oops, gotta drag those in there first. Don't forget to add those, or else there will be purple and black missing texture. So that should now work. So let's see how it looks in Gary's mod. So now that we're back in Gary's mod, we can see how well it turned out. So we'll go find the model file, in my folder down here. And for reference, I'm showing her original hair right there. This is our new hair is on the character. We can go into the advanced bone tool or the joint tool and move her hair around if we want. That's about it. It's a pretty easy way to make your own, not make your own characters, but add body groups to them, add different things of that nature. You can really easily add things like a wristband, because then you wouldn't even have to make a new skeleton, but I went ahead and showed you how to do that. So, with that you should be able to add body groups or add new things to your models, as long as they don't exceed the body group limit. And there she is with no hair.